Okay, the simulation is over, but I like to start making some tricks before we launch another simulation. And we can go inside the main FumeFX there for the explosion, and let's move it in this place. The resolution is still over really low, and I like to tune a little bit the various parameters. So I like to start making the final version, and in this way I like to have an higher amount of speed, so we'll have more speed created by the animation of the particles, and then we should have some collision with this one too, but we'll see later if it is needed or not. So talking about the simulation, let's start to have a little bit more quality during the simulation. So maybe we can go to 6, and I like to have a really low amount of tendency to have dissipation. So we'll go for the avalanche stride set to 0.15. Let's scale up a little bit time scaling to 0.75, and we can see some frames of the simulation, but let's start to have more frames inside the scene. So let's go for 300 frames, and we have to say to the output to use all the frames and also for the playback. So in this case we save, and if we go to simulate, we'll see what we can obtain in a few. So let's stop, and you see that we have the stuff falling down, and then it is accelerating, and it is not bad about the acceleration, but we have still to tune a little bit the various parameters. And first of all, let's go also inside the renderer, and I like to have a more dense smoke. Let's start with 3, and if we go to C, you see that now it is more dense, and it is nice to have something like that. Okay, so let's go to add a lighting setup, a minimum lighting setup, to have something that can be seen inside the scene. We can go for let's go for standard lighting, and let's go for target direct, and we get to have maybe a lighting hitting from this point, coming from this part, and let's move it a little bit. Okay, we'll have shadows, and I mean area shadows to be more precise. Let's go to maybe 135 about the lighting there, just white for the color, and we need a bigger hotspot beam. Okay, and we can activate also the overshoot if needed to have the lighting all around the cone. And then we have to say in the shadow parameters to have the atmosphere shadows, so we can calculate the shadows for the smoke. Then we can pick the FumeFX, and inside the illumination we say to use the direct one, and then in the rendering we can go to have a darker environment color for the ambient. And let's go for the moment with the right mouse button keyless mode to have just one color, and let's go for a gray color actually, and again a more darker color for the ambient. And then we have the cast shadows for the dust and the receive shadows. Let's save, back in the view, and let's go to have the dust there. And then we say use GPU, and then we can say to use the shadows. So you see, we see the shadows of the volume in a preview way, and that's what we are obtaining. It is obviously too low quality, it is too sparse, it is dissipating too much, and we have not enough speed to go down with more energy and more force. So save, and later we'll tune a little bit also the scattering to have a better illumination. Back to the simulation. I like to have back the entire gravity to rise down the smoke, and if we go to check the gravity, it will give us the possibility to have the smoke going down in a better way. We have another way to have less dissipation, and I mean we can remove also the dissipation strength, but in this case I like to stay with the actual parameters, and later we can see if need to have again another higher parameter or not. You see that actually the smoke buoyancy is -30, and we have the animation, so we have -1 at the beginning and then we have -30 later. We can go in the auto key and set to move key by key. We can go there, we have still -1, and then we have a little bit more there, and then we have -30. But I mean, -30 is not so much. Obviously the way, let's try with -80. This way we are using is just a way to control the speed. You can always maybe control, for example, the particle speed. You can manage the other parameters, and you can find a way you like to have this kind of effects. But you know, that's a way to do it, and you can obviously decide how you like to do. For example, you can also slow down the time scale when it is moving down. So for example, we can have 0.75 there, and then when it is crashing over the mountain, you can slow down to have a simulation of a bigger smoke moving. So let's remove the auto key and let's go there to have just a little bit more resolution, to have something more and something nicer to be checked. So save, and let's simulate again some frames to see how it is looking. Okay, let's stop, and we can see together something. You see that it is going not bad during the explosion, and then we have the crash over the mountain, and you see that it is rolling with an higher speed, and then it is going down and dissipating. So you see that the dust is going down the plane, so we have to add also the collision with the plane. And let's say that this plane is a little bit bigger, and back there we say that we have a collision with the plane too. The mountain has 15 for the collision, and we can stay with 15 actually, and we can add this one, it's a solid, and the ground will have maybe 10, and the mountain will be just maybe a little bit more, let's say 25, just to have a speed up during the rolling. We can see later if we need to have something, some slowdown, as I said before, during the falling down of the dust. So actually we have all the parameters needed to have a nicer simulation, and we need obviously also a better scaling for the turbulence and something like that. But to have something like that, we need also a higher resolution. So the first thing I like to do is to see if it is working nice in this way, and then we can tune a little bit the other parameters and tune also the rendering parameters, and we have this layer ready to be rendered. So let's go to simulate some more frames. Okay, we can check the actual result. So we have the explosion, then the falling down. You see that it's rolling, and then it's colliding with the plane and expanding to the ground too. And you see that it's expanding more than before, because there's this is an older frame, and you see that we have a bigger expansion. Okay, nice. We can see what happens if we have a slowdown in the simulation, for example, there. So let's save, and the time scale, let's go to scale it a little bit. So let's say that until there we have 0.75, and then maybe there at 115 we have 0.3. So it is a really big slowdown. So we can see if it is working nice, and then we plan to have different value to create the final sim for this pass. So let's calculate again some frames to see if it is working nice. Okay, let's stop. Let's see this new result with a slowdown. So we have the explosion, then we have the falling down of the dust. You see that it's moving fast, and then it is slowing down when it is colliding with the ground. Okay, so obviously it is moving slower at the end, but I like to see in this part that it's moving really fast. Maybe we can anticipate a little bit the time scaling if needed, but you know, we are creating a really out of scale scene, so you can just take care about the scaling if you are preparing a real scale scene, and in this case you can play better with a time scaling parameter. So we can move higher to have 250 maximum iteration to have a better look, and then we can scale down the spacing to have a more precise simulation. Let's go maybe to 0.75 actually, just for some tests we need to do. It is nothing so precise, but it's just to make a test. And we go lower with the scaling too. So let's go to maybe 1.5, and we can try to simulate in this way, and then tweak the look, and then tune the final parameters and move to the other layer. So save, and let's simulate something. Maybe we can also use a higher level because I like to see the final look. So let's try with 0.6, and there about the scaling, let's try with 1.2. Okay, and save and simulate some frames. Okay, we can check how it is going. Let's see. Okay, we have the crashing up. We have to rise, I think, a little bit the top area of our volume. You see that it is going to be more interesting than before our simulation, and then it is falling down really fast, and then it is slowing down and rolling over it. Okay, to understand if it is going in the right way, we have first of all to rise the up area, okay, to see no deformation over it. And then I like to have a higher quality simulation with 7, but before we can tune up a little bit the simulation. So save, and we need some material for the mountain. So let's say that this one, let's say ground, and we go to a really simple material, and let's go for a scan line. It's not a problem. I'm not taking care about the quality of the rendering. Actually, Let's go maybe for a substance, just to have a really fast calculation. Let's load the substance, and let's go inside the texture, and let's see, we have a ground. Let's go for this one. It's not so important, so let's rotate to see the texture. Okay, it is obviously too we have no tiling. Let's go to have 8. I don't care about the quality, as I said to you, so it is just something really simple. And talking about the mountain, I just want to pick one. Okay, it's this one, and we are using this one as map there, so we can move the accelerator to the displacement as swoop, and then remove the displacement, and then we can add a map. Let's go for a substance also there. Load, let's see, with the texture, and let's go for rock number 2, and inside the map we can see, and we can change the tiling. Let's go for maybe 8 and 8, so we are going to have something bigger on this axis, so something really simple. Okay, undo pan view and undo view rotate, so we have the same view as before. Let's pick again the dust there, and then we can render a still frame to see how it is looking. Okay, that's the render. We have actually the other dust there. Obviously it needs to be removed or tweaked, and we have still to work on it. So let's add another light. Let's go for a fill light, and the fill light can be, let's go for a really simple omni light. Let's rise up this light, and this light is something like a sky color. Okay, let's say that this one is 335, so it's not so much power. And inside FumeFX we can say to use this light too, and then we can render again. Okay, first of all, you see that the light is too much power, so let's pick this one. Let's try to have a little bit less saturation, and this one can be just a little bit lower. Let's go for 0.28. Let's re-render. Okay, you see that now it is going better. So let's tweak a little bit the coloring, and to have a nice coloring we can go inside the render, and we can go to have with the right mouse button the key mode, so we'll work on different coloring inside the dust, and in this way we can simulate some different materials exploded by the mountain. So it will be really nice to obtain a better look. So let's say that the first color is a dark gray. Let's say that this color is something like a brown color with less saturation, but it's darker. Then we can have, for example, there something more clear. Okay, well, it's going really slow, but you know. Then there we can have, for example, a darker color for a darker material, and there we can have again maybe You see that it's changing there the color to reflect what we are doing. That's we have again a brown, and then we can have, for example, less saturation, and we have again something similar to a white color. Okay, and we can have again there maybe another color. Let's wait to have the right position. Let's go for a white color also there. Let's close. If we go to re-render this frame, obviously the look will be different, and you see that now the coloring is more similar to the mountain. Let's see what happens if we go to have let's change the resolution too. So let's go for 900 and 400 and close, and let's set there the show save frame to have the right illumination and right sides of the rendering. Let's go for a multiple scattering. Let's set 6 to speed up a little bit the maximum depth. We can remove the fade strength, and let's try to have actually high parameters, and let's render. Okay, you see that it's working, but it is too much, so let's go lowering. Let's try with 0.15. Okay, you see that we have a nice looking effect like the scattering, but let's try to have a little bit less, just 0.1. So then we have actually a nice setup there for our smoke. I like just to see what happens when we have more dust like there. Let's render again, and you know, you have to remember that we have also to re-simulate everything. That's the result. I like to play just a little bit with the density too, and the ambient color will be darker because we are playing with the scattering and the other stuff. And let's see when we have, and obviously you can play with the management of the various debris if you like. You can make dynamic objects falling and something like that, and everything can collide with the dust and making some really nice looking effects. Okay, I like to try to have still more dense dust. Let's try with 6 and let's re-render. Okay, and let's go inside the smoke strength. I like to see the look without the scattering, just to understand how much scattering we can use over the image, or if we can darken all the colors we are using inside the simulation. And this is without the scattering. You see that maybe we can use a little bit less scattering. So let's go there and let's use 0.5, and then I like to play with the secondary lighting there. This one can be lower. Let's go for 0.12, and we can re-render again, and in this case I think that we are near to the final look for our dust. Then now we have to adjust the final parameters for the resolution. Obviously I will take care about medium parameters because, okay, I like it, because it can take a lot of time to simulate, so you can play with the parameters to have the final simulation, trying to obtain a more detailed look. So back in the color there, sorry, I like to have darker color, so we can, for example, set there a darker color for this one and set OK, then move to this one and go darker, and pick the white and go back to a gray color, and same to this one, it will be darker. We are trying to darkening the final result, just playing with the color inside the rendering value. And let's go to this one too. Let's go to a darker color, and the same for this one. And let's go for a little bit more saturation. Nice. Let's see again the final result. At this really fast render, you see just maybe 20 seconds. It is calculating the shadows and the scattering too. So let's see the result. So now it is more similar to the mountain color. Okay, nice. Okay. So we can save, and we can adjust still more. We can adjust to 25 the step size to have a better looking and avoid some problems during rendering, like artifacts or something like that. And we can see what happens if we have a lower value and also a higher quality simulation, but I think we can stay with 7. It will be enough. We need just to lower the resolution. Maybe I think you can go for the still not bad, and in this way 0.35 is 5 gigabytes of simulation. Let's try with 0.35. And about the simulation scale there, let's go for 0.7 about the scale of the noise. Let's save. Now I will calculate just some frames to see together the final result, and then we'll tweak the explosion path to finalize the animation. So let's simulate.